So the bubonic plague was the most common form that this bacteria spread through, and it was spread through flea bites, which caused swollen lymph nodes, which are why that's why it's called bubonic. Boobus. They got
got boobs on their neck. Oh, I got boobed.
Yeah, something like that.
Welcome to Stuff That We Like / Enjoy, at least at this point in time. My name is Caleb.
And I'm Christina.
We're the Castanettas, and today I'm going to ask Christina, what's something that you like / enjoy?
Something that I like or enjoy. I don't like or enjoy either of this, but it's something I'm interested in this week, and it is the question of what exactly was the Black Death?
Okay.
Starting right off on a light moment.
Do I get to guess what the Black Death is first?
What do you know what the Black Death was? Also known as the Black Plague.
Okay, I was going to guess Black Plague.
Okay.
I don't know much. And so I'm going to pass it right back to you.
Don't know much about history. You don't know anything about it?
No.
Okay. Well, I thought you'd know something.
I don't.
It's all good.
It's all back to you.
Great. Well, I thought that the Black Death, also known as the Black Plague, was a disease that killed a lot of people in Europe a long time ago. But other than that, I didn't know much about it. And so I thought I'd look into it. I'm not sure where this came into my mind.
Great.
I have a list on my phone of different podcast ideas. And so this one was from a couple weeks ago, and something prompted it, and I looked into it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
So I'm going to start with some history on what the believed origins of the Black Death were, what sickness it caused, and like the ramifications and the results of the sickness in Europe and the rest of the world. So pop in with any thoughts as I explain what the Black Death was.
Will do.
All right, so the origins of the Black Death, also referred to as the Black Plague, I might flip back and forth between those two descriptors, was a plague that was primarily caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Yersinia pestis. That's a beautiful name. That spread throughout Europe and other parts of the world between the years of 1346 and 1353. So it's like a 7-year span, about 680 years ago.
Okay.
It's a long time ago. So historians believe that this plague originated in Central Asia, possibly in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. And they believe this because the bacteria Yersinia pestis was naturally present among rodents like marmots and gerbils that lived in the desert there. And this bacteria was transmitted by fleas. So fleas would get on the gerbils or the marmots, and they would pass them on to each other and then eventually humans. So the plague likely spread along the Silk Road trade routes throughout Asia into Europe, and the bacteria likely reached modern day Ukraine by late 1346, which was the plague's entry point into Europe. And around that time, it's also well documented that the Mongolian military was attacking the city of Kaffa, which is in modern-day Ukraine. And while they were sieging the city, they were catapulting plague-infected dead bodies over the city walls.
Smart.
So that the city of Kaffa would get sick. And so it is believed that this could have accelerated the plague because there were lots of Italian merchants in that city, and they were escaping the siege because they didn't care about the city of Kaffa. It wasn't their hometown. And so it's believed that they took the plague back with them through the fleas that had been on the bodies that were thrown over the city walls. And then it got onto rats, and the rats like ships, and they just shipped them right on back to Italy. So that is believed to be the entry point of what is now known as the Black Plague into Europe.
So let me get this straight. Some Italians catapulted some
Mongolians
catapulted some dead bodies onto Italians. Mm-hmm. The rats got into those dead bodies, and the Italians transported those rats back to Italy.
Close, yeah. So Mongolians were attacking a city of Kaffa, which is in modern-day Ukraine. I'm not sure what that country was back
Okay.
then. But there were Italian merchants who
Italian
who were
merchants.
trading there in that city. And they were like, okay, we don't need to deal with, this isn't our city to defend. And so they took off back home and brought those rats with the fleas with them on the ships.
Okay. So they're kind of innocent bystanders, if you will.
Yes. Yeah.
And they just happened to bring back some passengers.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really strange. It's kind of like how in the early days of COVID, how they thought that maybe it came from a bat that infested a cat creature that then got into a wet market in China and then traveled, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Which all up to for debate on the origins of that. But it's interesting. There was some
Couldn't
sort
have
of
come from the coronavirus lab.
maybe. I never thought of that.
No, you don't think
That
so?
was in Wuhan?
Yeah.
Crazy. What a
Why would it
unique
come from there?
conclusion. I don't
Why would
know.
it come from the
I think It was
lab?
definitely the bats.
Definitely the bats
Yeah.
in a cave, not the coronavirus lab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, keep going.
So to recap all of that, there was some sort of bacteria called Urnisa pestis.
By the way, that sounds like your evil twin.
Christina Pitzel,
Yeah.
Urnisa pestis. That's funny. That was present among rodents like marmots and gerbils. It obviously didn't kill off marmots and gerbils. It wasn't deadly to them. And they lived in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. And they, with their fleas, got into some Mongolian camps who then infected people in Mongolia. And then Mongolian people threw the dead bodies into the city that's in Ukraine. And then they had fleas on it. And the fleas got onto rats that got onto Italian merchants' ships that got back to Italy.
Wow.
So that is the whole believed origins
Okay.
of the Black Plague. So what the Black Plague itself, the illness itself, it spread very easily because in medieval times were not known for being the most, we could say, sanitary or clean environments. Common folk took baths like less than once a month. If they washed their hands, it was often with cold water. They didn't use soap. That wasn't common. And human waste was just dumped into open gutters that ran through the streets of cities. So it wasn't really a sanitary environment. Cities were quite crowded. And there were lots of rats in those unsanitary environments who carry fleas just all over the place. So as a result of once it got to Italy, like some cities, like up to maybe 75% of people in Florence died from the plague. Just because
75%?
they think in between 50 to 75%. So because people are living in such close quarters, they didn't have a concept of washing your hands, keeping clean. There's rats, if you're just used to rats running through things, and fleas get in your house. You're just kind of toast. So the disease took 3 different forms. The first was the bubonic plague. It was
Booby
the
plague?
The what?
The booby plague?
The bubonic.
Okay.
I always
I'm
wanna
trying to
say-
make a little child friendly.
Bubonic?
Yeah, the booby plague. That way they can remember it.
Yes. They need to know about this plague that happened 700 years ago.
Keep going. So bubonic.
So the bubonic plague was the most common form that this bacteria spread through, and it was spread through flea bites, which caused swollen lymph nodes, which are why that's why it's called bubonic. Boobus. They got boobed.
Got boobs on their neck. Oh, I got boobed.
Yeah, something
no.
like that. It caused a fever and then gangrene, and the mortality rate was in between.
Getting boobed. It's so
It's spelled B-U-B-O-E-S. Boobos.
wait, say it one more time.
B-U-B-O-E-S.
B-U-B-O-B-S. Boobos.
Yes. Sorry.
So, wait, they got boobos.
Yes.
So you weren't kidding when you were like,
No.
they got boobed.
Yes,
They got boobos.
that's why it's called the bubonic plague.
I think that's a kid's show. Boobos.
That's
Booba.
That's Bluey.
No, Booba. It was a kid's show when we were younger.
Oh, I never watched
Yeah.
that.
You don't want to get boobad. It's
Okay.
not a good show.
So the bubonic plague, it caused swollen lymph nodes, fever, the buboes, which is swollen lymph nodes,
Okay.
and gangrene, and the mortality rate was in between 30 to 80%. The second way the disease took form was the pneumonic plague, and so that spread through your lungs, respiratory droplets. So that actually was kind of like pneumonia, which had a nearly 100% fatality rate through rapid lung infection. And then there was septicemic plague, which was rare, but it was a blood infection of the plague and certain death within days.
Okay.
So the bubonic part was the most likely, and that was spread all through fleas, and the other ones was spread through breathing on people.
So bubonic being the least bad of the three to get?
But the easiest to transmit, because with the pneumonic plague, you could just shut yourself in your house and not breathe on people. But the bubonic plague was spread through fleas and rats, which just infested cities.
Right.
So in order to stop the spread of the plague, different cities in Europe implemented some protective measures. We're a little bit familiar with this today. They quarantined ships that came into harbor for 40 days to make sure the plague wasn't present on the ship. So they figured out that ships were transporting it at the beginning. So they just kind of locked everybody on the ship, and if nobody got sick or they died off, then they'd let them off after 40 days. In the cities, if someone in a family got sick, they locked them and the whole family oftentimes into their houses and put signs on the door warning people not to enter, and like you weren't allowed to leave, which then pretty much ensured that the rest of the family was going to get sick and die as well. They didn't realize that the plague was spread largely by fleas, so their efforts to quarantine people really didn't work that well. Because you can shut somebody in their house, but a rat can just run next door and infect the next family. Their thoughts on the time was that the plague was spread through bad or unclean air. They didn't have the idea of bacteria, sanitation. That's why they didn't bathe themselves, wash their hands. You just dump your poop in a bucket into the thing running through the street. So they thought it was caused through bad air. That's why they locked people in their houses, so they couldn't breathe on people. So as a result, people burned a lot of incense and herbs to help clean the air. It was this thought that if I'm smelling something nice and pleasant and natural, then I can't get sick. They would also wear flowers on their collars, such as posies or other strong smelling flowers. And the idea was that, like I said, if they were smelling something fresh, they couldn't get sick from bad air, not knowing that it was mainly fleas that were biting them.
This is where that childhood song comes from, right?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
Ring Around the Rosie. So if someone was sick, doctors' treatments were quite barbaric, I would say. They involved bloodletting. So they would just cut you and let you bleed because they thought it would cleanse the body. They would also encourage people to vomit to cleanse the body, get rid of bad stuff, and to eat a bunch of herbs. And none of those worked very well and often made people much sicker because they're draining their blood and they're puking their guts out when maybe they just need to drink a lot of fluids and, stay away from fleas. Doctors were aware enough that sick people could make other people sick, although the majority of the plague spread through fleas. So once a person died, they would load them quickly into big carts that they just drove through the streets and would just dump people in and just put all the dead bodies into a mass grave. They wouldn't hold typical funerals to help reduce contamination to other people, which would have been through the form of fleas on their bodies. The Black Plague likely ended due to there not being enough people left to infect. It wasn't that they quarantined people well enough or they got rid of all the fleas and rats because they didn't know that's what was causing the plague. So not everyone died when you got the plague. As I mentioned before, there was a survival rate of 50 to 80% if you just got bit by fleas. So some people became immune. They got sick, but they lived through it. So this led to enough people that were just immune to it and it stopped passing on. Also, so many people died that cities just became half of the city was gone. So it was naturally less crowded, less unsanitary, less rats, less fleas. And many wealthy people just would flee to the countryside to avoid the Black Death. So cities emptied out even more because they realized being around other people is making them sick, even though it was the fleas. So the impact of the Black Death is quite crazy. It is still to this day considered to be the deadliest pandemic in human history. The plague killed in between 30 to 60% of Europe's entire population, resulting in the death of in between 20 to 50 million people.
Million people?
Yeah.
Oof.
Historians are unsure of the exact numbers of the deaths due to limited records. I mean, people are dropping dead all over the place. They're not really recording it very well. They're just dumping people into mass graves. But they were able to make some estimates based on, to this day, being able to do like, I don't know if it's radar detection, but able to see into the ground, like how many dead bodies are all clumped together in these mass graves. And there were some tax records that have been recovered from that time. The printing press wouldn't have been invented for at least like 100 more years, so there weren't any printed obituaries or newspapers at that time. Therefore, records are hard to come by on how exactly many people died. But this is what's crazy to me, is that I thought it was just a Europe thing, that just the Black Plague came through Europe, but it really impacted a good portion of Northern Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. It started in Mongolia and had to travel all the way to Europe. So cities like Cairo and Baghdad lost nearly 50% of their population. And it's estimated that there could have been easily over 100 million deaths as a result of the Black Death in just Africa and Asia alone.
Wow. That's unfortunate.
It's a lot of people.
After you told me that 22 million Europeans had died, in my head I said, well, at least it was just Europeans. And now it's not. So
No,
that's unfortunate.
It's a good portion.
Yeah, it's a good portion
it
of
was
the world at
of
that
the
point.
known world.
Yeah.
Yeah. North America and South
Didn't
America
exist.
didn't
Or,
exist.
I mean, existed, but we weren't there
a very
yet.
small population. And so a good portion of the world died off. So, like I said, in between 20 to 50 million Europeans died, and it could have been easily over 100 million people in Africa and Asia died. So for comparison, the World Health Organization has listed, guess how many confirmed deaths from COVID-19?
10,000.
7 million.
7 million?
Yeah. So
worldwide?
Yes.
I thought you were talking about just for North America.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
7 million.
So worldwide, there's been confirmed 7 million deaths strictly from COVID-19, which pales in comparison to the Black Death, which could have taken over 150 million lives.
Wow.
So that's just a couple percentages.
You know why, right?
They weren't masking up and
They
social
weren't masking up.
distancing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They didn't invest in herd immunity.
They didn't have the vaccine. Well, actually, they did invest in herd immunity.
Yeah, whether they wanted to or not.
That's how it ended. Yeah. Enough people died.
Yeah.
No one else left to kill.
Man.
So prior to the Black Death starting, it's estimated that there was in between 400 to 600 million people on Earth. So the Black Death could have easily taken out over 25% of the world's population.
Whoa.
It's crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So in conclusion, my question, which was, what was the Black Death? To sum it up, it was a plague that started from some gerbils prancing about in the Gobi Desert that spread fleas through infected dead bodies that Mongolians threw into a city in modern-day Ukraine that made its way on ships to Italy and then to the rest of Europe. And that is what the Black Death is.
You know what? You simplified it as much as you could, and I barely followed that whole thing. So thank you for doing that.
You repeated it back to me earlier pretty well.
I did. I followed it at the end. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, even with the simplicity that you brought, it was still so complicated because it's just such a crazy story.
Right? Isn't it wild? Yeah.
Good job.
What was most fascinating to me is that I thought it was just kind of, the Black Death was like, it hit Germany and England. Europe.
Me too.
But yeah, it took out a good portion of the world.
Good for the Black Plague.
Yeah.
I mean, it tried its best.
This reminds me of Dwight Schrute. It's like, we need another plague.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pro that. But imagine how if 25% of the world's population died today.
Today.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Or over the period of next couple of years.
That'd be pretty wild.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot more open parking spaces, which I would be a fan of.
Yeah, a lot less open
traffic.
businesses or places to go as well.
Hey,
It sounds like you're a little bit pro-plague.
I'm not pro-plague, but I don't think I'm against it.
Cool. Yep. So that's my topic. Thanks for
That's a great
listening
topic.
to it.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Next on this podcast, we like to do a little section we like to call debunking myths,
What?
right? Do we call it that?
Busted.
Myth busting. That's what we like to call
Yes.
it.
I mean, it could be. I don't think we've ever titled it. Okay.
All right. Well, we're about to bust a myth. Christina, what's your myth on the
So
Black
you
Plague?
touched on this a little bit earlier. So the myth is that the childhood song "Ring Around the Rosie" originated from the Black Death. So as you mentioned earlier, that's kind of a common story, and people relate it to the Black Death because the children's song is claimed to be describing plague symptoms. So ring around the rosy, that people have these like rosy rashes, pocketfuls of posies, like to clean the air, ashes from them burning bodies, and all falling down as if you're dead. So it's not related to the Black Death at all.
It's not?
No, the song's earliest recorded versions are from the 1881 children's book called Mother Goose, which had some childhood rhymes in it. And there's no evidence linking it back 500 years prior to the 1340s. And when you had the Black Death, you didn't have rosy rashes. Your lymph nodes swelled and you fevered and gangrened and died. And they didn't burn bodies. So the whole ashes thing
Yeah.
isn't
I guess
quite
it'd be
connected.
a ring around the boobies.
Boobas.
Boobas.
Boobas, yes.
Boobas.
Yes.
Ring around the
Yes.
boobas.
So that's my myth, and it's busted.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Nice. I always tied that back to the Black Plague.
Yeah.
So now we know.
They think it could be connected to some later plagues that went through Europe
Right.
later on.
The brown plague or
No, I mean, like, it was kind of a
the,
resurgence
it came back.
of, it might not have been the same
It
bacterium.
got popular again. That's crazy.
It might not have been from the Mongolian marmots with fleas
Yeah.
on them, but it was some sort of other plague that did infect specifically England a couple hundred years later.
Wow.
So it could be connected to that.
At least it was just England that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Good fact.
Thank you.
You want to bust a myth?
That is myth busted.
There we go.
Okay, on this next section of the show, Caleb is going to present to me a conspiracy theory. He is not saying that he believes in this conspiracy theory, but he's going to present what the people who do believe in it, who do believe in it, why they do believe in it.
Yes.
And he's going to try and convince me. And so
Yeah.
we'll see how this goes.
And it's called Conspiracy Corner. Welcome. So today's conspiracy is the hum. Why do thousands of people around the world hear a sound no one can explain? This one's really weird and
Okay.
still unsolved. Okay? So at the end, I'm going to ask you, do you believe it's a real or not real?
So I do believe the hum is real.
Or not real?
Okay.
Since the 1970s, people around the world, from Taos, New Mexico, to Bristol, England, to Auckland, New Zealand, have reported hearing a low-frequency hum. It's not tinnitus. It's not imagined. It's a real droning vibration that only some people can hear, and nobody knows why. People describe it as a distant idling truck or a rumble from underground, like an electrical throb. A throb. You like that word?
Mm-hmm.
You saying that, so I'll move on.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, you don't mind it. All right, never mind. It's most often heard in quiet rural areas, usually late at night. It's so disturbing that some sufferers have moved homes, worn soundproof gear, or even reported mental health breakdowns.
Wow.
Here's the kicker, though. Microphones don't detect it. Scientific tests come up empty. Governments and universities have studied it, and they found nothing.
Really?
So what do
Of course they did.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, it's like governments and universities are studying it. They're probably going to have a little bit of a different outcome if it's the result of a government
Or university.
thing. Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
funded by the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your psychology class. Making something happen. So what do theorists say? They say, is it military testing or surveillance? Mass psychological phenomenon? Or is it the Earth itself? Like it could be a natural microseismic activity or even the planet's electromagnetic resonance. So there's no solid answers, but what the hum is, there's no solid answers as to what the hum is,
Right.
but enough people have claimed that they've heard it that it's a working theory as to it existing, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're saying that people in New Zealand, in the U.S., other countries. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not just regional. It's worldwide, it seems.
Yeah, they say they think it might be the Earth, our own minds, or maybe the government's doing something underground and they're trying to keep it quiet. And only people with certain, I don't know, fibers in their ears can hear it. So,
Interesting.
what do you think?
Do I think it exists, or are my thoughts related to it?
I guess both.
Well, I think that if it was the Earth itself making a noise, because I do know different planets or stars make noises or hums. I feel like scientists or governments, even if that wasn't really what the noise was from, they would have at least been like, oh, we figured it out. Just the Earth's humming,
Yeah.
just no big deal. So because of that, I feel like it's not the Earth.
Okay.
So I feel like that would have been an easy answer. I have read stories of people hearing what they sounds like trucks driving underneath them, or kind of like hum or movement. And so there's some theories out there that there's some deep underground military bases, or like roads under the U.S., which is a wild idea.
Yeah.
Which I feel like we would have figured that out by now. Somebody would have. But for you saying that it's also in New Zealand and other parts of the world, that doesn't like make it a universal answer. I do know that in places like Sedona, is Sedona in Arizona or New Mexico?
I think it's in Arizona.
Okay, because you'd mentioned Taos, New Mexico, which I've never heard of anywhere.
Sorry, hang on. Let me read that one more time. I don't know if it's Taos, New Mexico. Sorry, it was Taos, New
the
Mexico.
country in Asia.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Wow, so it's even in Asia. I do know that in Sedona, Arizona, that there's different areas where they call them, I don't know if it's like a vortex or something, but people go there and they feel the earth humming and feel like it's like a spiritual experience. So there could be something related to that, as well as people that are into the whole vortexes and so sucking up the energy of the earth oftentimes are also participating in some mind-altering drugs or mushroom
Licking the
psychedelics. So it could be that all these people that are witnessing it throughout the earth also are smoking joints or having some magic mushrooms and are having some sort of experience related to that as well. Could be some form of tinnitus, like that ringing in your ears. But I don't know. I can't say that it's something that the whole world's trying to cover up, the governments of the world. But I'm not doubting that there can be some mysterious stuff going on.
Yeah, I don't think it's the government either.
Yeah.
It could be. If anything, for me, I think it would be the Earth.
Okay,
The
it's
humming.
making a noise.
Yeah.
And no scientist has been able to pinpoint that.
No. I don't know if it's on a frequency that's on a spiritual level. Something like that.
Right, that's kind of what I was alluding to with the whole Sedona vortexes, magic mushroom situation.
Yeah. So maybe we just haven't found a way to measure that yet.
Yeah, maybe the spiritual realm is humming in some way and people are tapping into that.
It could be. But I think it's probably real.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Nice.
Moving on.
So you're supposed to ask me the question to get the end.
Oh.
Yeah. I feel like we're so off right now.
No, we're good.
Is this enjoyable
totally
at all?
Who cares? It's not for them. It's for us. Are you having a good time?
Yeah, it just
All
feels
right,
like
cool.
we're out of our groove. Like we waited way too long to do this.
No, for everybody watching and listening, we worked all day and then we just sat down at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. to record this. So we're both pretty gassed. But we're here and that's what matters.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Happy to be doing this. So the question is,
And also we go to bed at 8 p.m. and so 5 p.m. for us is much later than it could be for other people.
yes, definitely.
We've been up for like 14 hours.
Yeah.
No, 12. I don't know.
We've been up for an amount of time.
Yes. It's been long.
Yeah.
I'm starting to hear the humming. That's how tired I am. Can you feel it? Anyways, you were saying.
So do you believe that the hum is real?
I do believe people are hearing a hum. I'm not saying that it's actually there, per se, in the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that people are actually hearing something.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yes.
All right. Me too.
Cool.
Next on this podcast, we like to do a recommend for our lovely viewers, or stuffies, as we've been calling them, until we find a better thing, which I feel like it's just going to become stuffies. I think it is
We'll
stuffies.
get little stuffed animals like of ourselves.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Well, they might
Or
do
maybe
some
we could do
voodoo
little-
with them.
It's true. Maybe we can get like a little mascot creature
Yes.
and make it into a stuffy.
Call him Stuffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be fun. We'll have to brainstorm what that would be.
Yeah, he could be like a potato sack.
He could be like a marmot with the black plague bacteria on them. X'd out eyes. Mongolian.
Yes, a
like a
Mongolian.
Genghis Khan.
Yes,
A Mongolian marmot.
definitely. That's our mascot.
There we go. So recommend to
recommend to our
viewers.
stuffies. What would you recommend?
I would recommend checking out a new movie that just came out on, I believe it's on Peacock, and it's called Last Breath. It is quite fascinating. It's based on the true story of some British deep sea divers and some pretty crazy things that happen while they're 300-400 feet under the water. And I was like on the edge of my seat for an hour and a half. And I won't tell you any more than that, but it's a great movie and it's cool that it's based on a true story. So check it out. It's just called Last Breath. If you look up The Last Breath, it's like a B.
It's a different movie.
It's like a B-rated.
Yeah, don't watch it.
Dumb
Garbage
horror
movie.
flick. So Last Breath. It has Woody Harrelson in it and Simu Lee.
Yeah, super good recommend.
Thanks.
I'm going to recommend Yellowstone. We've been going through it, the show, and it is depressing, but really well done. We keep talking about how there's nobody to root for.
Like
They're all bad
every
people.
episode, I'm like, all right, I like this person. And then I'm like, oh no, well they killed that person. Okay, I
Yeah.
like this person.
Yeah.
It's very emotional.
Yes, definitely like Peaky Blinders, if anybody's seen that out there. Carson, if you're listening, you know what it was. I watched that entire show with a buddy of mine named Carson. At the end, he's just like, there's nobody to root for. It's a sad show. And I was like, but
We watched all 8 seasons.
yeah, watched most of it. But similar vibe, but really, really good.
It's cool.
I would give it a watch. It is definitely not for children. Just so you know, going into it,
Lots of killing.
lots of killing, some scenes you got to skip, but good show.
Yeah.
Lastly, we'd like to tell people to contact us with questions or topics you'd like us to discuss at
Stuff we like podcast.
stuff that we like podcast at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. Follow this podcast and give it a like on Apple and Spotify. It really does help people find us and grow our reach. Follow Christina on Instagram at
See joyfully.
Christina also has a new show segment we started doing called Stuff You Missed. Check out the next one on Friday. You can find that on Instagram at
Stuff that we like enjoy.
stuff
So that we like podcasts. You just take the enjoy part off of everything.
I take
we
the
just
enjoyment out of life, baby.
We should just take the enjoy part off of the podcast title. Because
Maybe.
like everything else is called Stuff We Like.
Maybe. Let us know, stuffies. Should we take the
You
enjoy
just
out?
give me a script because I don't remember.
I know, but that's why it's fun for
Okay,
me.
cool.
Yeah.
Good.
You can follow me at Caleb C Media. I do freelance videography and photography, so email me at calebmcastaneda@gmail.com if you have needs in those areas. I also write music and would love to score your movie or short film. I have some music coming out in this next week, so keep an eye out for that. Lastly, we have a video and podcast company that helps showcase churches in Kansas City and the U.S., so if you'd like to get your pastor on our podcast or need video done for your church or non-Christian
I mean, that too.
or Christian nonprofit ministry, contact us at
Moodwavemedia@gmail.com.
There we go. And that's all we got.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been Stuff That We Like / Enjoy, at least this point in time. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.